Hi, I'm Dorian. This is Community Builders, the podcast where we look for the helpers. I'm here with TV reporter / anchor, Keith Jouganatos. Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you guys do for the city of Chico and telling the stories and telling the story of the history of the city, so to speak. Glad to be here.
I really appreciate that. I'm really excited to talk to you. I feel like media, and in particular local media, plays a huge part in how the community understands itself and guiding the direction it moves. Tell me a little bit about what it is exactly that you do and how did you get into it?
Well, I believe that our job as reporters, whether you are a television reporter or a newspaper reporter, radio, whatever the case may be, you're there to tell stories and you're there to give the public information. And you want to be as accurate as possible. You want to be as timely as possible. That can be a challenging road because obviously everybody wants to be first, but there's a lot of things that run the risk with that. It's being inaccurate, not giving the right information. So what we try to do in our line of work is alert the public of things that are going on, maybe some things that they already know about and they want more intel or information on, maybe some things they don't know about. And so I think for us, the responsibility that we have in our line of work, very, very important to do our job the right way and to do it with the most information possible at our disposal that we can give the public in a timely fashion.
I love that. I love the nod to storytelling, and I liked your mention of doing it the right way. Tell me about what that really means to you. What is telling a story the right way, and why is it a risk to tell it the wrong way?
Well, I think the most important thing that you can start with when you are telling a story is, why is this important? How does this affect me? How does this affect my community? And yeah, obviously a lot of the national stories that we cover, we talk about are very important, right? Because it affects us as a country, affects us as the world in general. But I also think there is an immense responsibility for us that are covering local news to get those stories out. Yeah. A lot of times people on a national level, there's certain things that you can talk about that affect your world and the changes that bring with it all occasionally. But the stories that are local, how are my tax dollars being used? What about the homeless situation? Who's running for political office? Why should I vote for this person? Why should I not vote for this person? Is my police, local law enforcement, are they doing their job the right way? These are all things that really need to be brought to the forefront. And so it's very important that on a local level, we are always in tune with what the public wants to talk about, what they want to read about, listen about, watch, and things of that nature.
I love hearing that. That's so after my own heart. And I want to talk a little bit about that distinction between local and national stuff. Why is it so important that we don't just follow national news? And I know you kind of hinted at it. There's a lot of things that are very specific to this community that we can then report on. But do you feel like there has been a push for people to become more absorbed in national stuff and less in tune with what's happening locally?
I think quite the opposite.
Wow.
I think some people are drained by national news sometimes because all you hear, one of the main things that I hear all the time when I'm doing a report or anchoring the news or whatever the case may be is, well, the news is so depressing. And in a sense, I could agree with that. There's a lot of things that go wrong in this world. There's crime, there's scandals, there's embezzlement, things of that nature. But I also think it's important to highlight those things because, locally, this is someone's life. This has been someone's life for the last 20 to 30 years. It's going to be their life for the next 20 to 30 years. Yeah. So it's important that we make sure in their community, in their bubble, they know what's going on. And a lot of them, if they don't watch the news, they get their information on their, like a majority of us do, online, on a telephone. So a lot of people that I run into say, I'm glad that you did X, Y, and Z story. I would have never have known that if you didn't have that on Facebook. I would have never have known that if I didn't see that on my Instagram reels. So I think there has been a big push in the recent years to see local news being put out more in the forefront. Anybody can get national news, right? CNN, CBS, ABC, whatever your preference is. But there is a big responsibility and I think a big increase recently to get local news out there so that the consumer knows what's going on in their community. Because more so than ever, that's what's affecting their life right now.
I love that too. Is it would you describe it as a local news renaissance? Is it coming back in a big way? Are you seeing uptick in viewership or other indicators that it's moving that way?
I think you will always have a supply and demand for the news. I think there will always be people that are wanting to know what's going on in their community. I think there will always be people that want to alert the public of things that are going on. I get like 10 to 15 emails, it feels like a week, of people that are giving me story ideas. And did you know this is going on? Did you know that is going on? Some of it I can't use. Some of it obviously I can. And there's a lot of things that I think that people want to know about their community and why things are working the way they are. And I think we owe it to the people that watch us night in, night out, who watch our social media, to give them the best job we can and, work as hard as we can to provide them the most clarity and the most information at their disposal.
Fantastic. Do you think people are going to be leaning more into broadcast news going forward, or do you think it is shifting more towards getting it on our phones and moving from there?
Well, when I was growing up, I remember the only avenues you basically had to get the news were television, there was the radio, and then there was the newspaper, right? Nowadays, you're seeing obviously a decline in newspaper sales, and there's people losing their jobs left and right. So you've got to, I think, improvise with the times. What you're seeing now, specifically on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, is that people, are watching reels. They're watching 30-second clips. They're watching 15-second clips. Oh my God, a tornado in Oklahoma, and it's right here at my disposal. Oh my God, a situation at a Target about a shirt, and here it is on my Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And it's not even, I think, the concept that the news is switching towards, the social media aspect. I think what you're seeing now is that people want to give their opinion, right? And so they go on Facebook or Twitter and they, I don't like this, or I do like this, or I don't know about this, but I could see both sides of the coin. So I think the instant reaction ability for people to have that at their disposal, but I also feel like the ability to take 30, 45-second increments at their phone with holding their phone and being able to do that also gives them the power to be like, I control my own destiny. I can watch what I want to watch, podcasts, YouTube, things of that nature. Everyone has a preference, right? So they're going to go towards their preference. But at the end of the day, I think as long as the technology is out there, I think that's what we're gravitating towards, is that technology and people being able to process the information on their own time.
Do you feel like we're losing anything with the very short form media, with 30-second clips being a primary mode? Or is that simply the future and where we're headed?
Well, again, it depends on your own interpretation, I believe, of the news. There have been pieces I've done where people have been like that there wasn't enough information, right? And what are you going to do about that? Everyone's going to have their opinion, good or bad, and that's the life we chose. I think as long as we are able as reporters and journalists to put the most information out there, what you'll notice with some of my work, is that I put the whole package out there. I don't want anything left to chance. I don't want anybody thinking that I didn't say this, or this. I want everyone to be able to watch the entire thing, process it. The best reward I could ever have as a journalist, in my opinion, is somebody having an opinion, positive or negative, but they give an opinion, which means they cared enough, showed enough importance in their life to tell people how they felt about a situation that I put out in my work. And so you can't beat that. But I also think it's important for us, hey, listen, 30, 45 seconds, there's just sometimes not enough information that you can get in there. So I hope we as journalists and reporters continue the great work we're doing around the country and the world to put as much information in there as possible. And hopefully people will gravitate towards that, have the patience to watch the entire thing.
I really appreciate the ownership you have of all of these stories, of this reporting, the way you talk about, when it's me, I put the whole package out there. Give me a little more insight into what the process looks like. You're getting emails every week with ideas for stories. Is that fully your jurisdiction then to say, I'm going to go with this story and go with it? Do you have producers? Are there showrunners? What does it look like to take a story from an email to on the air?
Normal day, I'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go run, go work out, get my mind right for the day. It is a long process. This is a battle, in my opinion. It is my career. I take it very seriously. The more hours in the day you have, the better. I'll get ready, brush my teeth, do all the whole 9 yards. 7:30, 8 o'clock, get out the door. We have a staff meeting at 9:30, so it gives me about an hour, 2 hours to kind of look and see what's going on out there, gauging the pulse of the city, what are people talking about? What are people thinking about? What's really grinding their gears? Okay, so we narrow it down maybe like 1 or 2 story ideas. We go into a pitch meeting. We pitch them. And then obviously importance takes over. What's the community talking about? What's a news story? A shooting and killing on New Year's Day, whatever the case may be. And so from there, we get the information, start piling up interviews. And again, we want to hear from as many sources as possible. Sometimes we don't get the main source, right? So we have to go towards District Attorney Mike Ramsey for what occurred. What does the case look like? Get as much B-roll as possible. Get as much video. If there's outside video that pertains to the story, maybe like some photos of a person who was deceased because of the situation, or somebody that, people want to remember. We have to get as much video and pictures as possible. I like to probably get that all done around by 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Write the script, has to be proofread, fact-checked, edited, track the script.
Wow.
And then put the interviews together, put the cut shots together. I like to do some different cut shots here or there. And then around 4 o'clock, put it in for a vid check. Make sure everything's up and up. There's no black screen. So if we go to TV, no one's looking at a black screen, or you can't hear somebody. And then start memorizing what we call the live shot. So when you go live, you set it up on your own, put the tripod up,
Wow.
Different phone for the agent IC so you can hear what's going on in the studio for your cue. Okay, you're up in 10 minutes. Keith, stand by. And then you've already obviously memorized the intro to what's going on. And then package goes on, you get the tag, done for the day, write the web article, put everything in for the lates. If you're anchoring, it's a way different thing, right? I like to do the memorize my lines about an hour, 2.5 hours ahead of time. So write the scripts. If there's pronunciations I need to miss, or that I'm missing, or if that I don't know how to spell, or if this is, said a different way, we can do that. And then obviously do your makeup, get dressed, and get on with it. But there's a process. It's not one of those things. I think people have this misconception that when you're a reporter or you're an anchor, they just go on TV. It's not like that. There's a lot that goes into it. Like any job, we're not special. I mean, we're not firefighters or police officers who have a much tougher job than we do. But there is a process, and there is a right way, I believe, and a wrong way to go about it. And I think it always pertains to making sure that if this is something you're passionate about, this is your career, you have to do things the right way, approach things the right way, so that you can be successful.
I hope people realize the Herculean effort that, like, for one person to be able to do all of those things, and that's not like a once a month thing. That's daily, correct? Like, this is your everyday.
Well, you get 2 off days a week, but
Okay,
sometimes you don't get off days. They're hard to come by.
Sure. You mentioned that you like to kind of start with getting a pulse. What are people thinking about? What are people talking about? What are people thinking about and talking about in this community right now? What do you think are some issues that are front of mind for residents?
Well, obviously the homeless situation. How are we going to go about things? We just closed down 3 more encampments. Obviously the Warren settlement hinders, kind of locks up what the city council, the city can do in that regard. I've talked to Mayor Casey Reynolds a couple of times, obviously, about this homeless situation. They just shut down City Plaza for a water break on the fountain, the pipes. But I think obviously the homeless situation in California with everything that's going on, that's always going to be a big thing. And then obviously you're going to have your crime stories, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have your community situations where people are up in arms about certain things. And again, it's a daily thing. There's the one thing I love about our line of work is that not every story is going to be the same as it was yesterday.
Yeah.
There's sad stories. There's positive stories. There's stories that make you laugh. Some stories make you cry. Some stories you wish you never took on. Some stories that you think about for the rest of your life and how much it touched you and impacted you. But I think always you have to, as a reporter, always be on the lookout for certain things. And again, there's stories that I want to do that never make it to air.
Yeah.
There are stories that I never thought in a million years I could get done that do make it to air. So again, I think you always have to make sure that you are mindful of what residents are thinking. I tell this story all the time. First thing I did when I moved here, I went on every Facebook group in the city of Chico. Chico Rants and Raves. Chico Raves and Rants. 2.0 Raves and Rants. Rants and Raves. Every single Facebook group you can imagine. And I copied and pasted the same thing. Hello, my name is Keith Jouganatos. I've recently been hired as a reporter, KRCR Channel 7, ABC. If there are any story ideas, please message me in my inbox or please respond on this comment thread. Within 5 hours, I had 50 emails. Wow. I had 50 DMs in my Facebook messages. Yeah, you should look into this. You should look into that.
Wow.
And that pretty much set me up the first 2 weeks of my career here. And I'm coming in on almost a year now. So it's very important to all the young reporters out there that want to get into this business, that want to do the work, want to take the time to put the grind in. Make sure you are always gauging the community. What do we want to talk about?
Yeah.
What are some things that we need to talk about, right? And the only way you're going to do that is if you talk to residents and get your name out there, get your foot out the door, and put your ear to the pavement.
I think that sparked three things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about what we can say to young reporters or people maybe interested in getting into this. I wanted to talk about, you mentioned when you first got to town. I want to hear a little bit more about how long you've been in Chico and where you came from when you got here. But first, I want to ask you about a story that did stick with you for the rest of your life. Because you mentioned sometimes there are sad things, sometimes there are funny things, some things stay with you. Do you have an example of something that you've reported on or that you've covered or done research on that really stuck with you and that you continue to think about to this day?
First job I ever had was in Shreveport, Louisiana. Starting out, regular reporter.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
And I was a weekend reporter. So how it goes is you work Saturday, Sunday. I think you're off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever the case may be. I think you're off Thursday, Friday. I forget the shift, but it was something around that, or in that regard. I covered this story on a Sunday about this church that had burned down in a fire. And obviously in the southern region of the United States, religion is a very big part of life. White, black, Mexican, Asian, whatever the case may be, Hispanic, excuse me. And I went out there to get interviews. And the pastor of the church says, I'll talk to you, but we're going to do a group prayer first. So I'm getting this B-roll, and as I'm gathering this B-roll, I'm listening in, and I'm about 10 feet away, probably where your cameraman is, right over there. And I remember this like it was yesterday. They all sat around in a group, or stood around in a circle, held hands, and they said, and the preacher told everyone in the congregation, the church is burned down, but we are blessed by God because we have each other. And in that moment, I realized what it was all about. And I had gone through a rough spell, and there's good days and bad days for all of us.
Sure.
But the fact that a person could stand there when their entire life, they've been in this church probably thousands of hours, spent countless meetings with each other, praying, worshiping, and just spending time with the entire community. And the fact that they were able to stand there and say, we are blessed because we have each other, because we're living, that put a big impact on my life. And I remind myself every day that regardless whether it's a good day or a bad day, I am blessed to be alive. Wow. And we'll get into it, but I'm sure there's been a lot in my life that I'm thankful that I've overcome and that I'm here and I'm living and doing what I love. You can't put a price on that. But that story always stands out with me.
Thank you for sharing that. It really is a great perspective setting, right? What we have is each other, and that's the thing we need to value more than any building or any property or anything else. So are you from Shreveport?
I'm not from Shreveport. I grew up in Sacramento, California.
Oh, okay.
Sacramento proud. Hashtag Sacramento proud. 916.
Tell me when did you get to Chico? How long have you been here?
So I've been in Chico now about 9 months.
Cool.
I had taken a year off from the business. I'd be the first to admit my first two stops, Louisiana, New York, I was embarrassed by. You know, there were some things that I was dealing with internally in my personal life when I left home that I carried with me. And because of that, although God gives us all talent, and I believe I have the talent to do this, wasn't able to succeed the way I wanted to. So I had taken a year off. I was back to selling cars. And I just said to myself, let me reapply myself, see what I can do. And so it came down to Oklahoma and Chico, California. And my boss now, Carrie Loring, called me, interviewed me, and said, I think this is gonna work out. And she kept saying that, and I'm like, okay. The first two times it didn't work out, right? So it's like, okay, but you're so convinced. But she kept saying, I think this is gonna work. I think this is gonna work. So for me, it didn't work out with Oklahoma. So it's pretty much my last option, right? Yeah, this is kind of like that part in the movie where like the hero goes and he's on his last, dying breath here, and he's got 9 lives and he's used up 8 of them, right? So, but for me, because I'd been living in Sacramento for a full year, taking time off. My father had gotten a little sick and things, were a little out of place.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But I said to myself when I got up here, I am no longer going to be a disappointment in my career field. Wow. I'm going to do this the right way.
Wow.
I'm going to get up every morning. I'm going to make sure my teammates know that I respect them and that I love them. I can't do this without them. I'm going to give it my all 100%. And 9 months later, here I am. And I think that honestly, a lot of people say, why would you want to go there? Why would you want to go to Chico? There's nothing out there. But honestly, I really do feel like the good Lord brought me here for a reason. And I am very, very touched and very, very thankful that the community in large has accepted me, has believed in my work, has supported my work, and I can't thank them enough for that. And so for me, I'm just as fortunate enough to be here, get my life back on track, get my career back on track as I am for the communities that, appreciate what I do. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Well, I have to say you've had a meteoric rise. Like you are absolutely crushing it at what
Meteoric,
you do. Yeah, meteoric.
You got to tell my boss that now.
Yeah, I will, absolutely. Yeah, we're coming during your employee review for sure. You are great at what you do. And
thank you.
I'm curious how you got there, because I love that you are sharing this whole arc, this whole story with us, right? Your personal hero's journey. It doesn't always just happen when you want something to happen. How did you know you wanted to be an anchor? And like, at what age did you start practicing in the mirror? And how are you able to do this so well? What was that path for you?
Well, I'll be completely transparent.
Yeah.
My parents divorced when I was about 7 or 8 years old. My mom, single mom, worked for DMV for 40 plus years. Never missed a day of work, never complained.
Wow.
But she was gone a lot. So I didn't have two parents at home. I was going home a lot of times, and I was by myself for a couple of hours after school. And so you turn the TV on, and I'd always been a big sports person. So originally I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That was my dream. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. I wanted to cover the Kings, and I wanted to stay home in Sacramento and do all this. And, I had an internship with 1140, and some things just don't work out the same. And I did not get into TV until my late 20s. I was selling cars. I thought that was going to be my life. And I was happy with that. I was making good money, and things didn't work out. And so for me, when I had to pivot, I said to myself, okay, well, let me see what I can do. And I had worked millions of odd jobs, freelance play-by-play guy, freelance sports writer. I had all these clips, but I had never really taken them and put them in a demo reel. So, life was not good around 2020, 2021. So I said, I'm going to take this demo reel. I'm just going to shop it around. And I had $8,000 in the bank. And I said, I'm going to shop this demo reel around. I would go on my lunch break and I would just submit. Job. Salt Lake City, Utah, submit. Cincinnati, Ohio, submit. Every spot you could think of that is a city in the United States of California, or of America, I submitted a resume and a demo reel to. And the one thing I would get is, well, it's only sports. This is a news job, right? I was like, yeah, but it'll translate. And I was getting interviews. But the one thing that stood out that I knew I could do this and I knew somebody was going to take a chance was that little by little, I was getting farther in the interview process, right? So for example, I make it to the first round of interviews.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to cut the field down. Thank you for your time. Okay, I make it to the second round of interviews. We're going to cut the field down. Thank you for your time. Now I'm getting to the top 3, the final 3 for who gets the job. We're going to cut it down. And then eventually got hired in Shreveport. And then from there, New York and stuff like that. But, for me, I think that I have always just had a passion for this. And it's something I love. It's one of the most purest things in my life. And I think that a lot of times at the root of anything you're pursuing, whether it's this podcast or if you're starting a business, it's that you have to have a love for it. And I've always had a love for our business, and I will always have a love for our business. And I am just so blessed by God that I'm able to do this for a living now. And I've made it my life, and I can't wait to see what lies ahead. But I always had a passion for it.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to be a news anchor or a TV reporter. A lot of people in Sacramento do sports. And I had a tough time making that pivot at first. I was like, no, I just do sports. I want to do nothing but sports. And I had a mentor of mine, Steve Large, say, listen, if you want to get in the business, you're going to have to sacrifice some of your wants. I said, okay, if I got to get my foot in the door, this is how it's going to be. But I never thought in a million years I'd be a TV anchor, and here I am, and it's going good so far. But I had to sacrifice, and I think it's paid off.
What do you love about Chico now that you're here? What have you learned about this community, and how do you feel about it?
I love the people. I love the fact that, growing up in Sacramento, a big city, and I love my hometown, don't get me wrong. But it feels like a lot of times the people I meet, it's like the mentality of keeping up with the Joneses. And when I would get introduced by people, this is Keith, he's the public address announcer for the River Cats, right? Or this is Keith, he does reporting. And yes, that is part of my life, but it's not everything. When I come to Chico, it's, my name's Bob. I work at the tire shop. My name is Chris. I work at Burgers and Brew down the street. But I also think it's just common people. They're nice people. There's no gray area with them. They're gonna tell you how they feel, and some of the reception's gonna be good, some of it's gonna be bad. But I love the fact they're honest, and I love the fact that it's normal people with millions of different jobs, and it's a community at the heart, and everyone wants to see everyone succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that they, at the core, are just good, outstanding people who work hard, do things the right way. And I'm just so blessed to be around them and bring them the news occasionally, right?
Tell me a little bit about being camera ready for an anchor. Are you, diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth? And then more like, do you have any tips or tricks you could give me or our audience about how to speak so eloquently and articulately? It's something I always, struggle with myself and would love to be better at it.
Well, again, I grew up and I was a fast speaker. Because the information I've always felt like comes to my brain really fast, and so I can respond like that, right?
Yeah, I noticed.
For me, as I got into anchoring, it became a situation where you've got to slow down the way you talk. So what I would do is I would go down the street and I would read signs. So for example, if a sign said Fruit Ridge Boulevard, you see Fruit Ridge Boulevard is way different than Fruit Ridge Boulevard.
Yeah, yes.
But what did he say? And I know if I'm too fast, I know the viewer at home knows I'm too fast. And that's not good enough. And so for me, I feel like there are times, where like you're doing like we call it a VOSA, which is basically like me just reading a story and there's video and sound that comes afterwards. There's some times where like, if we're like, 10 seconds over, 20 seconds over, which means that we got to hurry it up because we're off schedule. I got to put a little pedal on the gas or a pedal to the metal there, right?
Yeah.
So, but there are times where I know in my head I'm sounding way too fast and I got to dial it back. And so for me, I think the biggest thing is that you're always trying to slow things down in your head. People need to know what you're talking about, but people also need to know that you're not like talking overly loud. My entire life, I had been doing jobs with like stuff that I felt like was, some people might think inadequate equipment. So I gotta project, right? I gotta project in this microphone. But I learned over time the mic will do the work.
Yeah.
You just gotta remember your lines. And there's sometimes where like I know I'm covering a big story, right?
Yeah.
I know this is a big story with big implications in the city. So you've got to make sure everyone knows to get the point across.
Yeah.
And that you have to know that like what you're saying, somebody at home can watch or somebody on their phone can listen to and they understand it.
Wow.
And that's like a 3/4 of the battle. But I do not like the concept of going on TV and anchoring cold turkey. I do not like the concept of going cold turkey on a package. And so the one thing I stress to reporters and anchors is, someone in New York gave me the best advice ever, is that there's 8-9 hours before we go on TV. You can always do something that can get you more forward towards the end goal of putting together a great show. So the one thing I would say to all the young aspiring anchors and reporters is, make sure that you are taking this seriously. It's the biggest thing in your life is your career. If you're serious about this business, take it seriously. And always make sure that you're improving, getting better, reviewing your work. Yeah. That's a big thing.
Who gave you that advice originally? Because you seem to have already known that, right? That you take it seriously, you work really hard, you roll up your sleeves, you get to it. Where did that come from? You think that's something that's intrinsic? Were you born with that ability? Did you have mentoring? Was your family pushing you in that direction?
My father.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, we talk about my parents, right? I feel like my mom was always the more softer version of my parents. She'll give you her opinion.
Sure.
But my father was tough, man. And I say that with all due respect. He rode me like I had never been ridden before in my entire life. But it made me tougher. It made me realize that if you don't take your life seriously, no one else will. And so he's always my biggest critic, right? He watches everything. Why did you do this? You should have done that. I'm like, okay, I get it. But at a young age, it taught me, if you're going to do something, you better do it 100%.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's like a lot of people look at, the market we're in. Like, I think we're market 130, 132. Says, well, why are you taking it so seriously? It's market 132. The habits you create
That's right.
and market 132.
That's right.
Don't leave when you get to market 25 or 30. They stay with you. So a lot of people think, well, he's preparing to like do a great show for today. I'm preparing for the show 10 years from now. or I got to get to where I need to go and get better and trying to improve. And so I think for me, it's one of those things where like my father had a huge impact because he always taught me, you need to take this seriously. If this is going to be your life, if this is going to be your career field, then you need to make sure that you take this as seriously as you can, because no one else is going to for you.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. How does that kind of come into play, taking it seriously in your approach to how you handle controversy? Because not every story is received the same way. What's your experience with that? And how does keeping a mindset of taking everything very seriously help inform how you move when there is something that's controversial, or maybe reporting on something you believe strongly in or don't believe in? How does that play out for you?
At the end of the day, one or two things is going to happen.
Yeah.
Someone's either going to like the story, someone's not, right? And I know that, and I know what to expect now. You know, when I was younger, I was a loose cannon. I would take everything to heart. I'm a Scorpio, so you know how we get down. But no, in all seriousness, it's like I would want to clap back at everybody and respond. And I remember my editor at the Roseville Press Tribune, Ike Dotson, I did a story on, I think it was a coach who had been removed from his position, and somebody was taking a shot at me or whatever, and I tried to respond. He goes, no, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? This guy's, well, you can't put that. It's engagement. At the end of the day, my thing is this. Some people are going to like what you got to say and what you report on. Some people aren't. And that's just life, right? I'm going to walk out this door when we get done here, and somebody may like how a person's driving down the street. Somebody going to honk their horn and let them know, hey, you move it along. Yeah. At the end of the day, my goal is always, regardless whether you like it, don't like it, I want to give people an avenue to voice their opinions. My job, and a lot of reporters, I feel like they get this twisted sometimes. My job is not to make you believe one way or the other.
That's right.
My job is to set the table, not to tell you what to eat on the table.
Yeah.
So you can have your preference of mashed potatoes or turkey, or in our culture, tacos and enchiladas, but you have to be able to understand what your position is. I always want to go into a story. How do I lay the foundation? How do I lay in the framework? X, Y, and Z happened. Okay, now up to your own interpretation. And some people are going to like what you do. Some people are not. It's the life we chose. But I am not in the business of getting involved. And I remember I did one story recently where somebody asked me, where do you stand on this? It's not my job to tell you that. Respectfully.
So first of all, I'm way too hungry to be talking about tacos right now. But
aren't we all?
Yeah.
Well, it is Friday, so pizza could be on the menu for all of us, right?
Yeah, that's right. Pizza Fridays. I'm curious how you separate when people come straight after you, right? Rather than the story. I want to talk about two things here. I want to talk about, does that just roll off your back? Like when you're seeing people in the comment sections or whatever, do you respond? Is it like policy to not? And then, yeah, so let's start there. Let's start there. How do you deal with the personal attempts at engaging you?
Well, hey, I think as a human being, you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't care. I mean, we all care, right? We care how we look. We care how we're perceived. Yeah. And listen, people are going to say things about you that maybe are not flattering or maybe are not what you would ideally want them to say. But at the end of the day, it's like a fly, I learned. It's like a fly. It'll be gone in 15, 20 seconds. People are going to say what they want to say. Some of it's going to be positive and some of it's going to be negative. But for me, I don't take it personally. Because I've had people in my life switch up on me. I've had close friends that have switched up on me. The support those people gave me, and then like 2-3 years later, I don't talk to them anymore. Or they don't talk to me. They cut ties with me. Wow. So at a young age, I was taught, at the end of the day, the support don't last forever. The negativity doesn't last forever. The same way the great stories don't last forever, and the ones that you wish you had back don't last forever. Yeah, at the end of the day, I am blessed to do what I love. I'm in a position to live my passion. And how could you hate on that? At the end of the day, it's like, hey, listen, if I know that I gave 100% and I know that I did everything to the best of my abilities, I have no complaints at the end of the day. The only thing that would bother me is if I did 50% work on something I know I could have gave 100% to. That would bother me more than the comments. But at the end of the day, people are going to say stuff. And, listen, it takes 10 seconds to process it and move on. And that's life. People are going to say things about you till the day you die. There is not a thing you can do about it. And I am living and I'm breathing. And at the end of the day, I am just blessed to do what I love. And if someone has something they think I should have done better, or something that they don't want to, I guess, too kindly, or want to project something unkind to me, then that's their own opinion. But at the end of the day, we thank them for their contribution.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a healthy perspective. Everybody be nicer in the comment section, for the love of...
Please do. Yeah. Lord knows.
You said something that I thought was just excellent, where you set the table. It's not your job to tell people what to eat, right? It's not your job to have an opinion. It's not your job to feel a certain way. It made me think that that's another thing that may be lost in the short form. Everybody gets a soapbox, I want to weigh in form of media content that becomes a part of our scroll. I don't think necessarily a lot of people on social media feel that, right? It's their job to simply set the table. That's a market.
Oh, you don't? We'll give you that inclination.
That's such a difference. And what are we losing there to get our information from a distinctly less neutral source, like an individual sharing opinions?
When you are a reporter, and you cut the market by 50%, you box yourself in. And I'm going to be honest with you. There's stories I've done, I don't agree with what the person's saying. There's stories that I've done about other people, I don't believe in what they feel. But again, that's not my job. My job is give you the platform to tell your side, tell your truth, and whatever happens, happens. I can't control, like I said, comments. I can't control what people think or believe. But for me, as I've gotten older, I've always said to myself, I want to be the person that wherever I'm working at in the community, they feel safe to go to. Awesome. And they feel that I am going to give them a fair shot. And again, we may not see eye to eye personally, but that's not my job to give my personal opinion. Nobody cares what Keith Jouganatos has to say about road closure. Well, you care, but nobody cares what I think about a road closure. No one cares what I think about politics. And to be honest, I would like it to stay that way. My thing is when you're a reporter and you pander to one side, red or blue, Democrat, Republican, pro or against, you cut your base by 50%. Now you're shackled to that demographic, regardless whether you agree with them on everything or not. You're shackled.
Right.
I don't like the idea of being shackled. I want to give everyone a fair shot. I want everyone to tell their side of the story. I've interviewed people who are for the homeless and getting them help. I've interviewed people who are against the homeless. I've interviewed Republicans and Democrats and mayors and people in politics that we don't agree. We don't see eye to eye out in the open maybe sometimes. But at the end of the day, my job as a reporter is to, again, lay the foundation, lay the table. Here are the facts. Get out of Dodge.
Couldn't agree more. That's the difference between it being a service to the community and it being like someone reaching for their own benefit or getting their own opinion out there. It's something that we all become stronger when we're able to tell things in a way that does include all sides. What are some issues you wish got more attention in this community? Are there things that you'd like to see highlighted more or you'd like to see more awareness of in general?
You know, there's always going to be things that I think need to be highlighted or want to be highlighted, right? And again, we are limited on if somebody doesn't want to talk to me, somebody doesn't want to talk, that's their right to do so. I can't force them to stick a microphone in their face. How do you feel about this, right? And it just doesn't work like that. I think there will always be things that, people feel are deemed evil or wrong or malpractice. And again, that's the beauty of the world we live in. If all of us wore nothing but gray our entire lives, there would be no disruptions. There would be no pushback. But then you get one person who's wearing a highlighter sweatshirt and a highlighter green sweatshirt and some neon yellow pants or whatever. And somebody says, why would that person wear that? But at the end of the day, you have to be who you are. Yeah. And we want to have different opinions. I think that's what makes this country the best country in the world is that we all come from a different spot. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, yellow, brown, Caucasian, whatever the case may be. We all are different. And we all have the right to express different views. And we all have the right to tell our story. And I think the one thing about this country and this community that I love is that everyone has a different opinion. I talk to 5-6 different people a week in the city of Chico. Yeah. You should have done a story on this. I didn't like how you did that story. I liked how you did that story. And I love it because at the end of the day, people have the right to voice their opinions.
Yeah.
And as long as people are willing to speak up and stand up for what they believe in and allow us to come in, tell their side of the story, there will always be things we could always talk about. But again, we're limited. But at the end of the day, I always feel like there will always be those stories that get out the cracks and we're able to tell that.
Keith, what an enlightening and refreshing perspective. As we wind down, I just want to say thank you.
Of course.
For
thanks for having me.
Caring about what you care about, for putting those things forward as your priorities, to wanting to make sure that we still have a pathway to community messaging, to understanding the big things that are happening here in Chico. I'm going to be following the rest of your career with great interest.
Well, I appreciate that.
And we're friends now. So
yes, we
so
are.
you're stuck
You are
with
a
me.
friend.
Yeah.
I would say what you guys are doing is just as important as what we're doing. What you guys are doing, telling stories, getting the people who go through this every single day to tell their stories and tell their life stories. I think that is a huge, huge benefit to our community. I say our community now because I've lived here for like 8 or 9 months. So I think I've earned the right to say I'm a Chicoan.
That's right. That's right. I'll vouch.
But I think we are a better community for people such as yourselves that are filming and doing these things and telling these stories. And again, I tell this story all the time. On my way to Louisiana, I stopped in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
And, I got to see all the monuments and artifacts and the JFK assassination plaza, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I randomly stopped in a Holocaust exhibit for $10. It changed my life.
Wow.
They had an actual boxcar where they transported the people. They had jumpsuits that the people wore, actual jumpsuits. They had pictures. They had newspaper clippings. And the main thing I took away from that day was I owe it to myself and the people around me to tell the stories. Yeah. That is the only way something like that can be avoided ever again, is if we get the information out there. So the fact that you guys are putting the information out there and you're having people tell their stories, that is a wonderful thing. But I would just like to say I'm blessed to be doing what I love. I'm thankful God has given me a second, third chance, because a lot of people don't get second chances. And I am thankful that I learned how to be part of a team, because there's so many people other than me that make our station successful, that make our broadcast successful. I owe all my success to our PAs and our executive producers and our directors, Carrie Loring and Beta Hepner and Glenn Cassie and Mike Mangus and Max Tedford, all the great people I get to work with. Those are the people, and those are the reasons why I am successful.
Could not be more after my own heart. And just to echo what you said, the team here is just incredible.
They're wonderful. Look at them. They're ready to go.
They really are. They're some of the most capable people I have ever met. I'm honored to be working with them. And it means a ton that you say those kind of things to us, because we take it very seriously too. We do feel obligated to tell the stories and to improve this community through quality, truthful, neutral messaging, and uplifting the people who are doing the hard work.
You're doing a good job so far.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
We'll be talking more. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I would love to. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.